In a world marked by economic uncertainty, shifting alliances, and rapid technological change, India stands at a pivotal moment. Bringing together policymakers, industry leaders, economists, diplomats, and thought leaders, the 16th edition of the Mind Summit created a platform for meaningful dialogue on the choices of shaping India's future. Held in New Delhi, this year's summit explored a powerful theme: uncertain times, confident choices. India recalibrates. Over the course of the day, some of the country's most influential voices came together to discuss growth, governance, global dynamics, and the road ahead.
Big welcome to our chief guest this morning, Finance Minister of India, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman. Thank you so much for being with us. And a special thank you for coming in when you are feeling unwell yourself this morning. So truly appreciate this. This platform was set up 20 years ago as an idea to involve industry in the effort of nation building and for us to think, to apply our minds to what truly matters to India, to Indians, to India's economy, and to India's global relations. And it has seen India go through an amazing shift. There were no iPhones then. There was no UPI. Sachin Tendulkar was still hitting centuries at that point in time. And we have come a long way since then. Especially in the last dozen or so years, we've seen this absolutely highly accelerated, dramatic change take place. We saw infrastructure built out, both physical and digital, unlike anywhere on the planet. And it truly is unlike anywhere on the planet. What we have done in physical and digital infrastructure together has never been done by anybody else. Our pace of building new roads, new airports, new ports, and all the rest of it, alongside bringing over 500 million people into the miracle of this economy, creating new bank accounts, creating digital identities. There are just so many initiatives, it's hard to compress them in a short address. We constantly, there was this saying that India constantly disappoints both the optimists and the pessimists. The predictions on India always have been, we will do exceedingly well. We keep talking of India in the long distant past. But of late, interestingly, both the reputation of India and Indians has improved dramatically. We have become the largest and the fastest growing large economy in the world. We are amongst the leading economies, and at this pace, we are amongst the fastest growing. We are adding the size of many small economies annually to our GDP. We still have a challenge. We have 800+ million people who the government supports with free of cost food grain every month because they need it. So the social program being run in parallel while the infrastructure build-out is taking place is an interesting and a unique experiment. I'm not sure many countries have actually been able to do this. So, Madam Finance Minister, you are truly the most experienced finance minister India has had. You have presented more budgets than anyone else, and you've held the helm of the country's economy and finances for a long period now. And this has been both an exciting and a turbulent time. And we are facing one today with wars, prices of energy going up, the multiple challenges of supply chain, and at the same time, the excitement of the growth that we see in India. Could you, in your words, tell us how you see the immediate future shaping up, and how do you think we as a nation are preparing or can prepare for the medium-term future that we see as well?
The question which you've asked is probably the question every business leader has in his mind. I know my business is doing all right, but yet I don't know when a challenge externally will come. I'm doing good exports, but I don't know when a tariff can land on me, and I have no control over it. Similarly, the three large items which we import, paying foreign exchange, are all fluctuating, whether it is your crude, which luckily we have the capacity to refine, but the crude, not just the price of crude which keeps going up, but also the insurance cover and the risk which insurance demands to get your vessel going there and to get your vessel filled up and brought back. So price is a challenge. Foreign exchange reserve will have to be adequately kept for meeting these demands, growing demands. And growing demand is good because a growing economy requires these critical inputs. So it's the same thing as a business house, which will have these considerations before them, but for many of them, they don't have a say. They don't have a handle. So India's challenge is very similar. But of course, India's comfort is that you have a large domestic market, which is good enough with the consumption going up. But you still have a lot more intermediary and raw material products which you have to import. And that import is now under severe strain. So that's the challenge. And monsoon every year is a challenge for any finance minister. How will it work out? Will it be sufficient? Or is it going to be patchy, that some areas are going to be dry and some others are going to have excessive rain? That's a year-long, every year concern. But this year, because of the El Nino, I think we are preparing for not so good a monsoon. Of course, we have enough buffer stocks. Since last year we've maintained, so there shouldn't be a food shortage. But for farmers, it'll have an impact because this year his income will be stressed out. So I think broadly, I'm not saying anything that you don't know, but these are the challenges, and I'm not sure how much of a provisioning can you make. 1 week you have a challenge, the next week that challenge is addressed, but newer challenges come up. So it's being ready for every such exigency.
Beyond the keynote conversations, the Mind Summit brought together diverse voices from business, public policy, diplomacy, finance, and governance.
There is no doubt that we are living uncertain times, but I think you cannot build without being an optimist. And I think that challenges are also opportunities. The Western world is not a monolith. And the last moves of the American administration have demonstrated that. But there is a positive side in it, because it's if you want, I'm blunt, is a wake-up call for Europe towards what is called the strategic autonomy, which means that the capacity, having the capabilities, the awareness, the tools and the resources to identify and pursue your interests without depending on anybody. And I think it's also a fair thing, because we cannot ask 330 million people, the Americans, taking care of the security of 450, even more if you consider UK, Turkey, and so on. So I think it's not a question of dismantling, for example, NATO. It's a question of cultivating in action more concrete and actual strategic autonomy.
I think all of these days we were thinking of two Indias from the perspective of rural and urban. Now within urban India, there are two different types of India. Now there are the gleaming, GCC centers, the ORR 17-kilometer stretch of Bengaluru, where you have the top IT companies, the semiconductor design companies coming. You also have these 8 crore, 10 crore, 12 crore premium apartments that are coming up. And then these gated communities. You just go a block away, you find large swaths of juggies, you find these large swaths of slums, which need a very serious attempt at redevelopment.
Frankly speaking, the job that I'm in, I keep hearing insurance and insurance. So this is a sort of dichotomy that we live with, but the outside world, the gap exists. To be very candid, from an India perspective, anything that you put on per capita, and each one of you will agree, it comes out very attractive in terms of potential. But the journey is very arduous, and it can take significant effort. We also know for a fact that millions of people transit from low income to middle income to high income, and so on and so forth. So prosperity in general is going upwards.
We have been told that FPIs are leaving India. They have taken out about $150 billion and invested about $100 billion. There are 100-odd companies in which FPI investment is at all-time high level. So they are selling some and they are buying many more. Second, out of the net $50 billion investment which has been taken out, we don't know how many of that belongs to high-frequency traders. On 29th May 2026, there was MSCI India rebalancing. It was the highest ever turnover on NSE at about 3 lakh crore rounded off. 70% was contributed by FPI. Their normal contribution is 15 to 20%. Based on the rebalancing, they should have taken out 8,500 crore. They took out 20,000 crore. Our belief is that substantial portion of that is high-frequency traders. Why do we allow high-frequency traders to operate in India and take so much money out? That's a question we need to ask.
Surprisingly, even though I'm a member of parliament, my solution is not legislation driven. My solution is actually implementation driven. And it's very easy if you actually leverage technology. I'll just give you two examples. First, I think that VC hearings should be the norm and not the exception. COVID was a blessing in disguise for the litigation profession in India. It actually ensured that the dropout rate of female lawyers dropped because they could actually access courts and they could sort of conduct hearings from the comfort of their homes while taking care of their families or whatever other requirements they had. So VC hearings will definitely expedite the number of cases that you can dispose of. The second aspect that I would want is to leverage technology like artificial intelligence, because what's happening is a lot of the judicial time and the taxpayers' money is going not in adjudicating the matter. What happens is that the judges end up wasting a lot of their time in the procedural aspects.
India imports about 180 billion worth of fossil fuel. When prices go up very sharply and you have a war in your neighborhood in West Asia and the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, the prices shoot up from about $60 a barrel to about $110 a barrel. It has very severe implications on your macroeconomic security. It has implication on the strength of your currency, and it has huge long-term implications on your growth prospects. And therefore, energy independence is the key to India's long-term growth and prosperity. And my view has been India has already done about 286 gigawatt of clean energy. We had set a target of 500 gigawatt by 2030, but we need to enhance this target in a very big way.
While the subjects varied, a common thread ran through the conversations. Whether discussing growth, governance, technology, investment, or social development, the focus remained on how India can navigate uncertainty with confidence, balancing ambition with inclusion and progress with purpose as it charts its path forward. The day also celebrated those translating ideas into impact. The BML Munjal Awards recognized organizations that have demonstrated excellence in learning and development, highlighting the role of leadership, innovation, and human potential in building stronger institutions.
We will begin with the very first category, which is Sustained Excellence Award. And this one, as we saw, goes out to Tata Power. Let's hear it up with a big, big round of applause. आगे बढ़ते हुए हमारी अगली कैटेगरी है PSU कैटेगरी और इसमें विजेता हैं इंजीनियर्स इंडिया लिमिटेड. इस अवार्ड सेरेमनी की अगली कैटेगरी है प्राइवेट सेक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग अवार्ड और इसमें विजेता है मिंडा कॉर्पोरेशन. इस अवार्ड सेरेमनी की अगली कैटेगरी है इमर्जिंग स्टार्स अवार्ड और इसमें विजेता है सागर डिफेंस इंजीनियरिंग. Ladies and gentlemen, we now present the Jury Special Mention Awards. पहले विजेता हैं Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India. और इस शाम का दूसरा Jury Special Mention Award जाता है अरविंद आई को.
As the summit approached its conclusion, attention turned from policy and economics to deeper values that shape a nation. The summit also witnessed the unveiling of the Braille edition of The Making of Hero, bringing the remarkable story of the Hero Group and its founders to a wider and more inclusive readership.
मुझे कहा गया कि भारत का निर्माण मूल्य और भविष्य, रूट्स, वैल्यूज एंड फ्यूचर, ऐसा अंग्रेजी में. तो इसके बारे में तो अपने देश में सभी प्रकार के लोग चिंतन करते हैं और जहाँ संघ ने मुझे जिस कुर्सी पे बिठाया है उसमें मुझे भी वो करना पड़ता है और करता हूँ, उससे ज़्यादा सुनता भी बहुत हूँ. उस भरोसे कुछ बातें मैं आपके सामने रखूँगा. भारत का निर्माण इस शीर्षक में ये निर्माण शब्द मुझे थोड़ा खटकता है क्योंकि भारत तो निर्मित है पहले से. हम सब लोग भारत है और सनातन है, यानी मूल खोजा जाए भारत का तो कहाँ जाएंगे हम, बहुत पीछे जाना पड़ेगा. इतिहास प्रारंभ होता है, उसके पीछे से भारत आ रहा है और भारत अभी भी है. कई उतार चढ़ाव देखकर आज भी है. अनेक लोगों के, विदेशियों के पारतंत्र के बाद भी भारत है. कभी कभी वो पंक्ति याद आती है, यूनान मिस्र रोमा सब मिट गए जहां से, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. तो हमको मिटाना चाहने वाले मिट जाते हैं लेकिन हम चलते रहते हैं. हम वही भारत है. तो क्या ये एक दकियानूसी भारत है आदिकाल से चलता आया हुआ? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. गंगा बह रही देश में, हजारों वर्षों से बह रही. तो गंगा पुरानी है ही, लोग उसको दकियानुसी भी कह सकते हैं। लेकिन गंगा बहती है यानी जो पानी बहता है वो उतना पुराना नहीं है, वो हमेशा नया होता है। तो गंगा एक ही समय सनातन है और नित्य नूतन है। ऐसे हमारा भारत भी सनातन है, नित्य नूतन है, रास्ता नहीं बदलता, पीढ़ियां बदलती रहती है। पीढ़ियां बहती है, बदलती है, चलती है, उस रास्ते पर ही चलती है। क्योंकि भारत ये भूगोल का नाम नहीं है केवल, तो भारत उस रास्ते का नाम है, एक स्वभाव का नाम है। और इसलिए उसका मूल जब खोजते हैं तो ये स्वभाव कैसे तैयार हुआ, इसको सोचना पड़ता है। क्योंकि मनुष्य भी एक पशु ही है, तो पशुओं की जो आवश्यकता रहती है वो सारी आवश्यकताएं मनुष्य की भी है। परंतु मनुष्य केवल पशु नहीं, उससे कुछ ज्यादा है। अपने आप कहते हैं कि आहार निद्रा भय मैथुनंच सामान्यमेतत् पशुभिर्नराणाम। लेकिन धर्मो ही तेषाम अधिको विशेषः धर्मो विहीनः पशुभिः समानः। तो आहार निद्रा भय मैथुन मटेरियल नीड्स के बारे में हम लोग पशुओं से बराबरी रखते हैं। लेकिन हमको विचार दिया है, कॉग्निटिव एबिलिटी दी है, उसके चलते हमने एक विशेषता को अर्जित किया अपने परिश्रम से, उसका नाम है धर्म। अभी जब धर्म कहता हूं तो अंग्रेजी में जो रिलीजन है उस अर्थ में नहीं। धर्म के दो अर्थ है, स्वभाव और कर्तव्य।
The 16th Mind Summit brought together diverse perspectives on the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. As India recalibrates for the future, the conversations that began here will continue to shape the choices that define the years ahead.